Welcome to episode 2 of the UFC podcast. My guest today is none other than gifted Gabe Green. Gabe, thanks for coming on, man. I really appreciate it.
Man, thanks for having me. Appreciate you. I appreciate you taking the time to want to interview me, man.
Of
That's
course. Of course. I just had to start off, I know you're a busy guy. Um, but what do you do for fun? I mean, summer just started. What have you been up to?
just hanging out with the family, eating a lot of food. I'm gonna go watch what's it called? Inside Out 2 with my nieces after this.
Oh, nice. Nice. Um, I was literally playing pickleball with my family too. So I'm up in Montana, so finally got some nice weather. So just been enjoying the sun. Got in the lake yesterday, so yeah, it's been great. Um, you're born and raised in California, right?
Yeah, I've been out here my whole life.
Do you do any, surfing, any water sports? Do you get on the ocean at all?
Nah, I barely float. I stay out of the water, man. I don't know if it's my bones being dense or something, but everyone's like, just relax in the water, you'll float, man. I can't float to save my life. I just sink to the bottom.
Dude, I've seen the shots that you've taken in the octagon. I'm sure it's your bones.
Gotta be, man. Some I can't. It's like every time I can swim across the pool, but it's a struggle. I'm like fighting sinking the whole time. Like I'm not made for water at all.
I got that. Yeah. No, I get cold fast. But so I'm in and out, but yeah, I definitely can float a little bit. Um,
Yeah,
s-
my wife can swim for days. She just I'm like, what? Like, how are you doing that? She's like a buoy. She just no effort, just is in the staying above water. I don't know. I'm kind of jealous. I'm not gonna lie.
right. Did you notice any different? I mean, you fought at multiple different weight classes. You've been at 55, 70, 65, 60. Can you notice any difference then?
No, I mean, even when if I'm smaller, if I'm bigger, I just sink. And it's funny because my brothers are the same way too. None of us we just sink. Like if we go to the deep end, like we can walk across the bottom of the pool and just that's it. We're just chilling at
That's
the
wild.
bottom. Like yeah, we just don't float at all.
It's just those strong genetics, man. So I mean, what do you have coming up fight wise? I know that, April didn't quite work out for you. Were you trying to go down back down to lightweight?
Yeah, I mean, 55 was the plan. I don't walk around too heavy. I walk or even fighting at 170, I walk around smaller than most 55ers walk around. So I show up to fight week and I'm like 72, 73, and eating whatever I want the whole time, going to buffets multiple times a week. Like it's a cut at 170 is nothing. And then yes, I was like, yeah, I'm showing up fight week at 70, what most 55ers are showing up to cut to 55, and just eating meals all week. And when my coaches go out for more food besides the food that the UFC gives us, I just go eat with them too. And then yeah, it wasn't a struggle at all for 170. So I'm like, yeah, I might as well go down to 55 and fight guys that are actually like my size. Even though I can get away fighting at 170, it's like I'm doing a disservice to myself at the highest level, fighting guys that are just way bigger than me. I think I was going from 170 to 175, 76 the next day for the fight, and everyone else is back up to 195, 197, 200. Like I said, I can still beat those guys. Even the guys that I've lost to were pretty solid 170 contenders, and yeah, even me fighting super small compared to them, I did pretty damn well. I could have won all those fights for sure. So I don't think I needed to go back down to 55, but I just let me make my life a little easier as far as fighting when you're so much smaller and stature and reach compared to the guys. I have to fight a lot more risky than I'd like to fight sometimes. So yeah, we're just wanted to try 55 out again, and then I got hurt 2 weeks before it happened and had to pull out. But 55 is still the aim for the next time.
Right on, dude. I definitely just watching your fights. it's hard to say that you're not undersized compared to the guys that you've been in there with. Um, and it really just 15 pounds between 55 and 70 is too much. Would you be a proponent of, having that 165-pound weight class and splitting that up a little bit?
Oh yeah. I'm like that's what I am. Like 55 is it's a cut and I can do it. It's not super fun. I've never missed weight at 55, but if there was like a 65 or 60 or something in between, that'd definitely be ideal for me. It really sucks that like it's not 55, 65, 75, 85, but like, that's the world we live in. So you kind of got to suck it up and just choose which one you about to be about. So
Yeah, I mean, I get not complaining. Like, we're not going to change anything. I can guarantee that. But it really makes sense to go every 10 pounds from 25 up to 85. Sure, the bigger guys, you can have a little bit larger of a gap. Um, but everybody always says, too, lightweight and welterweight, they're the deepest divisions. There's a reason the majority of people in the United States, like, they're going to be
right.
that size. It would just make sense to have a third weight class, split it up, more title fights. I think it would be good all around.
Yeah, I think that's the whole thing about why they're so stacked because most 55ers walk around at around 185 pounds, and most welterweights walk around at like 200-ish pounds, and that's what an adult male weighs when he's in shape, and has some muscle on him. That's just because they're also like lightweights are around 5'9" to 5'10", and then welterweights are around 6'1", 6'2". So, and that's like, an athletic dude who's got some muscle on him and is kind of just out there competing yeah, athletic. That's just kind of where the majority of us fall in between.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's not rocket science. Like, it's just simple anatomy at that point. Um, yeah, it's just wild watching you take a fight on 4 days notice. Was that, your D-Rod debut? And then
Yeah.
staying on that at that weight class, it's like, man, it just didn't seem right even from a
No,
fan's perspective.
I really wanted me to go like, all right, because even that fight, it was 4 days notice, but I hadn't trained in 2 years. Because I was recovering from surgeries, my hand and shoulder. So I hadn't I was it was like 4 days that I knew I was gonna fight, but I really hadn't been in the gym for like 2 years. And I think me like being competitive in that fight was like I was like, see Trace, my coach's name is Tracy. I was like, I'm a welterweight, man. I've been trying to tell you because I just 55, Not that I couldn't do it, it's just like I knew fighting at 170 would be so easy. It's like I just 4 days notice, I was like, yeah, I'll mix 70, and I just showed up and made weight, fought a dude who's been fighting, and yeah, I mean, I heard him. I was taking his best shots, and I was still marching forward. I was real rusty that fight because I hadn't trained in a while, but I was fully convinced that if I had a camp, I would totally beat him. And yeah, so after that, I was like, come on, man, let's just give 170 a run. Let's just see how I do at 170. And then I beat Phil Rowe after that. And I was like, see, he's like the biggest welterweight I'm going to fight. I'll be fine at 170. And like I said, I can definitely compete at 170, but it is like an uphill battle because everyone's so much bigger than me.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, you touched on your injuries a little bit, and I just wanted to ask, like, how do you deal with the stress with knowing that how you make your money is just this frail little meat sack that we have that you're going to be smashing into people? Like, it's inevitable to have injuries. So how do you kind of just balance knowing that you're going to get hurt, but trying to stay healthy and make a living?
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of guys, they don't train all the time unless they have a fight, so their body's not getting run through as much. But I don't know. I find that really weird. I'm trying to get better all the time. So I'm almost in camp year round. And so I do like the risk of me getting injured is like even higher just because I'm always training. And I have the gas tank that I have for a reason because like I'm just always trying to go and push myself. But I just gotta remember to take after going hard for so long, every once in a while I gotta take like a week off or two, week or two off and just kind of recover so my muscles, ligaments, all that stuff have time to heal. I think that was the problem with my last. Just I got injured 2 weeks or so before my last fight, and then I was like going real hard, and then I was gonna take like a break, but I saw that they hit me up like, oh, we got this fight for you. So I was like, oh man, well, I guess I'll just keep on going hard until I get there. And yeah, my ligaments just kind of gave out right before I was at the fight. And I think all respect to the guy that I'm supposed to fight, but I totally thought that I was gonna, kind of win that one, and it would have been great, but just wasn't in the cards. But I mean, yeah, I mean, you try to just kind of save your money in between fights because you never know what's gonna happen. A lot of us do personals, and we train people on the side here or there, do some coaching and all that stuff, just to make sure that we have some money coming in because life is expensive.
Right. Do you see yourself just kind of transitioning into coaching after fighting?
Um, man, I don't know. I really I don't know if I'm gonna have my own gym, but I definitely will be around the sport a lot still. I can't imagine my life where I don't just get up on a couple weekends out of the year and just go travel somewhere with my friends and fight people. It's just like it's me. We my coaches and my friends, we've talked like my corner, and we're like, isn't that just crazy that we just kind of get up, jump in a car or airplane, and fly over somewhere and just fight a group of other guys with his friends too? It's like pretty, it's pretty cool existence that we live, and I can't imagine not like doing that as something that I do a couple times a year, even if I'm not the one who's fighting per se. I just like it's just such an awesome experience to be a part of. So if I don't know if I'm gonna have my own gym, but I definitely will be kind of training and mentoring people on the side a bit still. I can't just like just stop. It's such a big part of my life. I think I'm just gonna be training forever personally too.
Right. And I mean, you develop that camaraderie with the guys, right? You have to go to battle with them. That's makes total sense. Is there anywhere that you want to fight in the world? Just any country, any place that you really want to go make an appearance in?
It's anywhere, man. I one of the big reasons why I started fighting too was because didn't have a lot of money growing up and didn't travel much. And I was thinking, man, fighting's so cool because not only do I get to fight, something I love, but I get paid to do it. And then on top of that, I get free vacations for them. I just get flown and get to see different parts of the world. Uh, so anyway, I mean, I am Italian, so I'd love to go to Italy and fight over there. Visit someone. I've never been to Italy, and I got family over there, so I'd love to go visit them. I'll make a trip out of it. Go in there. I recently got to go to Mexico City. I'm part Mexican too, from on my dad's side, and that was real cool. We went over there to corner some guys in karate combat. That was a fun experience. Just to see where parts of the world that I'm part of, that my roots are in, would be really cool.
Yeah. No, so I mean, obviously the UFC's been to Mexico City before, so that would probably be the easiest. I don't think they've ever been to Italy.
I maybe I feel like if they did, Vittori headlined it. But yeah, but Mexico City does have a PI now too. So I'd like, and I didn't get to go when I was there. They were just doing like a tour of it, but I want to actually like use the facility. So going down to Mexico City and using their PI would be pretty cool. They got a PI in Shanghai. I should totally check that out too.
Yeah, that's wild. Do you go to Vegas often to use the PI there?
I was going like once a month for a couple days. I try to go every bit. They just got so much for us, man. You get the hot and cold tubs and saunas and their like what are they called? Like the person we got the personal trainers for that, but they got like physical therapists in there too. They got PTs that'll just they're so good at their job. Like any little pain that you have, they'll just be like, "Oh, you just need to do this," and then bust out some kind of doohickey, and they just I don't know. All of a sudden, you're feeling really great when you leave. I really wish I lived closer to it where I could just like go every day, but maybe one day.
That's all of their work is just kind of included in your contract. You don't have to pay for anything at the PI, right?
Yeah, we just you give them a heads up, you tell them that you're coming through, and then you can bring a couple people in there with you and use their mats or whatever. If you want to work out, you can book workouts with their personal trainers, like I said, or you can just tell the physical therapist that you're having this or this or that problem, and they're some of the best like physical therapists in the world, and yeah, they just hook you up, man. It's pretty awesome. And then food, man, they got like stocked fridges full of those protein chocolate milks and stuff. And depending on who's sponsoring the UFC at the time, they'll have this or that. Like before, they had a bunch of Monster water stuff, and then they had body armor stuff before that, but they're not really with body armor anymore, so they don't really have that anymore. So yeah, you just open up the fridge and just grab what you want, and then you're good to go.
Man, that sounds like a wonderful life. Just go in, get whatever you want from the PI, man.
And food. If you tell them you're going to be there from like this hour to this hour, they'll have like breakfast, lunch, and dinner for you. So yeah, it's.
Is the food pretty top tier? Is it tasting really good?
I mean, I like it. I'm not very picky, but I just be liking food in general. But I mean, it's it's more than edible, that's for sure. I think it's good.
Right on. That's awesome. Um, I also wanted to ask just a little bit about your background just in martial arts. I know that you were playing football in high school and you had a boxing bag in your backyard, but were you doing any martial arts as a kid growing up? What was your introduction to that?
No, I mean, I didn't do any kind of training at all. I really was interested in it. I always thought martial arts were really cool. I was drawn to everything martial arts, like martial arts TV shows and movies and cartoons. That's just all I wanted to watch when I was little, and I thought it'd be so cool to train. But family wasn't about it, my mom in particular. So I kind of just you was just that kid like on the outside of the karate dojo, just like with his hand on the glass, wishing he could be a part of it. And then when I was old enough to start training, one of my friends started training, and I could sign the waiver myself, and I had a job when I was in college too. So I was like, yeah, man, let's my mom can't tell me no when I'm the one signing and paying for it. So I guess this is where I start. And I loved it as soon as I got into it.
That's awesome. And you graduated from college from Long Beach, correct?
Yeah, I graduated from Cal State Long Beach with an economics degree, man.
Heck yeah, dude. I have a business degree too. So you see how well we're both using our degrees.
Exactly. I was pre-med before that. And when I started fighting, I realized that I just wanted to fight. I loved it so much. And I didn't want to, well, especially my parents were like, dude, just go get a degree in something. You're already there. And I was like, all right. And I just walked to my counselor and I asked them, like, this is gonna sound weird, but what's my fastest way out of here? And they're just like, what do you mean? I was like, well, like, look at my classes, man. What do I have the most credits towards a major for?
Yep.
And they're like, I guess technically economics. I was like, all right, we'll switch my degree to economics. Let's get out of here. And then it was a wrap. I just finished up that. And yeah, I mean, it was funny too. They're like, are you sure economics? That's like, it's not easy. I'm like, I'll be fine. It's cool. We'll just do economics. It's just some graphs. We'll be all right.
It's ironic. I started pre-dental, so I was in the pre-med little sector too, and then I flipped over and just graduated business.
I probably would have stayed if I could get my classes, but everything was so impacted, as at least at Cal State Long Beach, that I was just like, I'm not gonna be here and then training and then like not getting my classes that I want and just have a super extended stay. That was the really cool thing about the economics class. Like they're so easy to grab. There's not a bunch of people in
Yeah,
the economics group. So it was just like, yeah, once I switched to that, I was zooming on out of there.
that's awesome. And then, how did you take your first amateur fight when you're still in college, or how long after you graduated did you take your first fight?
Oh yeah, I was in college. I started training with my coach at the gym that I'm at right now, and I did a jujitsu tournament after like a month or two of training, and I got gold in that. And I remember it was funny. I got like double legged into the judges table by some one guy who was a kind of a hothead, and then we got reset, and then I choked him out with a triangle, and he was so pissed, and he left, like because he gets bumped to the losers bracket, and he probably would have got like third place, but he just like left the thing completely because he was upset that he lost the match. But yeah, after that, I went back to the gym and I was like, cool, man, this jujitsu stuff's cool, but we're sparring and stuff too. And my coach asked me if I want to do an actual fight, and I was like, yeah, let's do that. And I had my first actual fight like a month or something after that, and it was just uh, I loved it so much, and it was just a wrap. I was like, when's the next one? When's the next one? When's the next one?
Yeah, no, it's awesome that you found something that you were just so passionate about and were like, yo, this is what I'm gonna do. This is what I'm gonna make my career out of.
Yeah, I didn't know if it was gonna be something that I was gonna like get paid for at that time, but I just knew I really loved it, and I was all for it. So I was just like, let's see where this takes me, and it took me to the top.
Sure.
I'm not at the top yet, but I'm at the top of the promotions go.
Hey, you're at the UFC is the absolute pivotal point of where you can be. So, you might not be exactly where you want in the weight class or, in the division where you want to stand, but you're definitely in the company that's going to provide the most for you that you could ever do. So,
No, yeah, for sure.
just talking about the UFC a little bit, and because you have experience with the welterweight division, I wanted to ask about some welterweight fights coming up. On 303, we have Ian Gary, who you've previously fought, fighting MVP. Do you have any opinion on how that fight's going to look? What are your thoughts on that fight?
I think it's gonna be real interesting. I don't see. I like. Well, I think MVP is the better fighter out of the two. I think that Ian Gary doesn't have what it really takes to beat MVP. But it's going to be interesting to see how that fight actually goes. Because obviously, if Ian Gary like actually pushes forward and tries to go after MVP, then like it's not going to be too good for Ian Gary, or at least I don't see it being too good for Ian Gary. But I don't think that Ian Gary's going to like come forward against MVP in the first place. So an MVP just be on his little bounce back and forth, and at least with me when I fought Ian Gary, he's the opposite, right? So MVP is like this. Ian Gary's real lateral side to side and doesn't like to get contained. So either the fight's gonna be kind of like explosive, and then they're gonna actually start trying to crack. And I see MVP winning like those kind of uh well, what's the word for it?
Just the blitzes, the quick exchanges that happen.
Changes. MVP is going to be winning those exchanges because he's just like Ian Gary was long for me, but MVP is even longer, especially like with his super great in and out movement. Um, but yeah, I don't if Ian Gary doesn't come forward and doesn't press, it's just going to be a whole lot of probably waiting. So it's either going to be really exciting, and then if it is, I think MVP's coming out on top, or it's going to be really boring, and then we'll see like a whole lot of nothing happening where MVP's on his bounce back and forth, and Ian Gary's like kind of just going left and right the entire time with nothing happening. So we'll
Yep.
we'll see how.
Yep. No, that makes a lot of sense. I liked your breakdown of that. One thing that I saw when you fought Ian Gary, was, I mean, your relentless pressure is just admirable in the first place. Like you're a dog when you're in there. But that definitely started to get to Gary. Like when you finally got him up against the cage and started unloading later in the fight, like you started to see the first chinks in his armor. But that's so different from how MVP fights that I think it's going to, we don't know what's going to happen. It's an intriguing fight for me for sure.
Yeah, I think I I'm just waiting to see what happens too. I think that it when you watch the fight with me and Ian Gary, I've watched it like a bajillion times. I think like my problem with it in particular, like where I messed up was I was so caught on I really wanted to knock him, and I was like trying to land one big one, even when I was like getting him against the wall. Um, I didn't. I probably could have grinded out like a more boring control on the wall win, but I don't know. Sometimes judges are a little crazy, and even if you got complete control the whole time, they don't necessarily give it to you. So in my mind, like as my thought process was like, no, I gotta finish him. I gotta finish him. And I think I could have subbed him, but my mind when it going to finish was just like, no, I gotta knock him out. I gotta knock him out. I gotta knock him out. So like I was so stuck on that. And I think that was a big problem with for me for that fight. But I don't think MVP is gonna be having that problem exactly. Yeah, it's gonna be who if like once that actual fight starts happening and the exchanges start happening, if they happen at all, then it'll be exciting if it does.
Right. Yep. No, I think it's going to be a wild fight, hopefully, or it's going to be boring, just like you said. Either nothing's going to happen or it's going to be a knockout, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Um, on that note, the champ Leon Edwards is facing Bilal Muhammad on the next pay-per-view. Do you have any thoughts on that fight?
Like Edwards surprised me a lot with the second time he fought Usman. Because the first time when I was watching it, I was just like Leon's good, but I thought Usman was like better, and then Leon just caught him at the end. Uh, but then he made so many good adjustments that in the second fight, I was just like, dang, like where'd that came from? Leon's gone so much. I don't know if Usman just didn't take him seriously because he was like, oh, the guy just caught me, and anyone can get caught. That's not going to happen again, or what? But Leon just like, if he has that kind of work ethic and that like doesn't leave him, even if he's on top and he just is just fired up to keep on getting better and better. Um, that's like what I'm really excited to see how much he's improved since his last fight to go in there and fight against Bilal. But I mean, I think if Bilal wins, it's just going to be like his grappling is too much and he just kind of just does what Bilal does. I loved it. I loved that he actually was throwing against when he fought against Gilbert Burns and stuff, even though Gilbert Burns was had that like shoulder injury that
Yeah, he was
happened or
hurt.
whatever. Yeah. So that sucks. But I mean it was nice to see him like actually throw because that's not really what he'd be doing. But yeah, no, I'm really excited to see because Bilal doesn't really change too much. He's kind of like he's got his style and that's like what he is. It's gonna be interesting to see what Leon does to like how much he improved from his last fight. That's what I'm really looking forward to see.
Yep, the improvement of Leon is scary because I'm with you. I feel like a lot of people kind of forget about the first round in the first Usman and Edwards fight. Like Edwards took him down, dominant in the first round, and then Usman wiped him the rest of the fight. Like it really wasn't close. It was exactly how a lot of analysts thought that fight was going to be, and then the head kick, which was miraculous. I mean, it was set up perfectly. It was a perfect shot. You can't really say that it was lucky, but
No,
um, still
it was
shocking.
for sure.
And then in the second fight, it was just a completely different fight. Like Leon controlled almost every second of that fight as well. It flipped, and yeah, if Leon actually got that much better, then he's a scary fighter.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Like the amount that he improved, it's like, and then Usman just was going out there and Usman's a great fighter, but he just Leon made him look. I don't want to say like garbage, but like he just would outdid him on every exchange, everything. Like he got the better of him the entire fight.
Could that have been that improvement? Could that just be a mental switch? Could that have been just a confidence thing? Like, hey, I became champ. I just got 20% better because I'm champ now.
I mean, it could have been, dude. Like I always say that I'd rather go into a fight with a body that's broken than a mind because mind's a powerful thing, man. If you have like complete faith in yourself or like if you have any kind of hesitation or something like that, or you think that you're not supposed to be there, you're really gonna your body's gonna show you that you're not supposed to be there. But if you got complete belief, man, you're gonna look so much better than you actually are just because you believe in yourself.
That's wild. Well, I have to go with a dirty segue with the bodies not entirely being there. We have a couple old legends fighting. We have Nick Diaz coming back and fighting Luque. Um, I mean, we love Nick. Like he's one of my favorite fighters. Like, but coming back at 40 and fighting Luque, who arguably he's had a few losses, but he is still 32 years old. He's still technically in his prime. Um, you know, not the best fight for Nick, in my opinion, with all due respect.
Yeah, I would have preferred him to fight Ferguson. Just like the
Let him
older
flip.
dudes, yeah, let the older dudes in the division fight each other. Um, but like I think Nick's even better than a lot of people give him credit. Then like remember when he fought Silva, like the stand up exchanges were great. I mean, we'll see. Yeah, I would prefer him to fight guys that aren't so like young, but I'm still gonna watch it. I'm rooting for Diaz. I want him to go out there and just be like, all right, young buck, let me show you what's up. But Yeah, we'll see. I don't know exactly what's gonna happen on that.
Yep. I mean, I definitely want him to have his send off too. And then I want him to retire. I want him to win and then I want him to get out of there. But and you can speak on this a little bit because of your injuries. He's coming in after years of not fighting. Sure, he had the one-off fight with Lawler a couple years ago, but you know, knocking that rust off without, being able to train as much as you want to, be it an injury or just being retired essentially, and then coming in and fighting at the highest level on the main card or something like that. How would you approach that just mentally?
I mean, I think ring rust is kind of like, as far as not fighting for a while, as long as he's been training, I think he's been fighting for so long that it's almost no matter what, if he's fighting today and he hasn't fought in like 3 years or whatever, he's got years and years of fights and stuff like that. So, and different across different promotions, right? So I don't think that the actual aspect of him fighting in front of people on a big stage is going to do much to him. As the rust would be just like if he's actually training every day or not. That would be where the rust comes from. Um, and he's mentally kind of, from what I've seen, a gangster, and he's down to show up and scrap, and I think that will take you really far away. Yeah, so as long as he's actually training for the fight, if he's not just kicking it and doing nothing, then I don't think the rust and like like those little seconds of being off on the counters and all that stuff, and just like your eyes working properly, being able to see things is gonna be the big thing. So yeah, like ring rust, it's a thing for some people. It's a thing for people who, in my opinion, aren't comfortable kind of fighting in front of a bunch of people. But if, as long as you're comfortable fighting in front of a bunch of people, it doesn't you don't need to be like constantly fighting in front of everyone for it to like be a big thing, or a big thing that's going to affect you.
Right. So as long as he's sparring, you think, his eyes are going to be on. His timing should be close enough.
Yeah, like the only way he's gonna have giant ring rust is if he just shows up and walks in there, you know, because you got to be comfortable with, like, especially as you age and stuff, you're gonna realize while you're sparring that you can't return as fast as you want. Like your reflexes are a little slower, and I think as long as you're in tune with that, then you'll be okay, because you'll be able to know what you can and can't get away with. And so as long as he's sparring actively, he'll know what that's about. I don't think he'll ever have like an offset of being able to show up and just fight. It just fight like well is gonna be like in tune with himself is gonna be the thing.
Oh, he's definitely going to throw down. We know that. We just don't know if he's going to be sharp essentially.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The
Right on.
sharpness.
Right on. Well, as you know, we do this all for the fans, so I'm going to transition to some fan questions. When I'm promoting these podcasts, just be sure to hop on my socials, and you can drop comments in. And I'm not going to add some of the explicit comments here in the pod, but if you want to have a laugh, go ahead and look at the comments. They're quite funny. Some questions that people want to ask these fighters. The first question is coming from Ryan Bell, and he's just asking about your Mount Rushmore of the UFC.
Mount Rushmore of the UFC. Think you throw Silva up there.
Hmm.
GSP.
Yep,
Rushmore's 4, 5.
it's four.
Silva, GSP. Hmm. I'm gonna throw Mighty Mouse up there, even though
Yep.
he won now. Just he did so good for so long, and then go John Jones.
Yep. So that's my exact list. So I have two. If we're talking just the best fighters of all time, it's John Jones, GSP, Anderson Silva, and Demetrius Johnson. If we're talking about, the most influential, blah, 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 it gets a little hairy. Then I think, maybe you have Hoist Gracie, Chuck Liddell, Connor, and maybe Anderson Silva, or maybe it's Ronda. Maybe it's Ronda Rousey's actually that fourth one of the most influential people in the UFC.
Yeah, no, I could totally see those for sure. They made big movements in the promotion.
Right.
Like you got to respect those guys for sure.
Right on. The next question is coming from Legend MMA, and he's just asking who your favorite fighter is.
Favorite fighter. As far as MMA goes, I've always just said Silva, man. His just striking was so like just him going against Forrest Griffin and just being like that and throwing the shot and drop. It's just like it's on replay in my head all the time. It's just so smooth. His smoothness while he was fighting was just unreal. Like, yeah, Silva's just gonna always be my top.
Right on. And man, I you definitely didn't emulate him. Like you have a different style than Anderson Silva, but that's cool to have a favorite that's so opposite of you.
I mean, I have to when everyone's so much bigger than me, like Silva had like reach and stuff, I couldn't fight like Anderson Silva if I wanted to. At least like maybe at 55, I get with it a little bit, get away with it a little more because my reach is about the same as everyone else. But there's no way I'm just going to be able to go like that and come back in when everyone's got like a 6 or 7 inch reach on me.
Yeah, that's wild. Wild. Next question's coming from Caleb, and he's asking, are pre-fight nerves a factor in the result of the fight? So I
um,
guess are there any correlation between your wins and losses and how you're feeling before the fight?
I've never really had giant pre-fight nerves. Honestly, I'm my coach has been a coach for a long time, and he says that I'm one of the few people who legitimately are just they're just ready to scrap. And like you'll see if you've ever been backstage at a fight, there's like a just the how different people are, right? There's people that are pacing back and forth. There are guys that are like running to the bathroom every 5 seconds because it's got like nervous craps coming out of them, and the nervous peas, and then there's guys that are just going on and on, like, okay, well, I'm gonna do this, and then I'm gonna do this, and then when he does this, I'm gonna do this, and you're just like, especially like you're back there if you're cornering guys too, and they're like, oh, I'm gonna do this, and you're like, all right, let's just go out there and just throw the first jab, and then we'll see what happens after that, because you can't just plan a whole fight in your head before it happens, because when it doesn't happen that way, you're gonna get thrown off. And then me, I'm always just kind of backstage when I'm actually fighting, and I take a nap, like, and I just have my coach wake me up before the fight, like when it's time to get warmed up, and I just kind of stretch, breathe, pray, and then go like, all right, let's go do this thing. So yeah, I mean, I've been lucky and blessed to not really have any kind of nervousness really happen. I've had like the opposite, like almost the extreme opposite of nervous, where I just kind of like just didn't even feel like fighting. Like I'm walking out there like, oh man, I'm gonna fight today. Oh, I guess. Well, let's see what happens. And it's and that's like been one of my best performances, honestly. So yeah, yeah. I mean, at least for me, I don't think nerves really has an effect of any sort.
Yeah, well, I think that's probably, I mean, like you said, you're one of the few in that. So, I mean, I had nerves before I was doing sporting events, much less fighting. So,
I mean, I just think, like the way I think about it is, or like before I really got into my Christianity and beliefs on a spiritual level, I was just like, I mean, I'm just gonna go fight, and I do that every day. So what's like this guy gonna punch me or kick me? It's just I've been doing that for the last like 6 weeks. It doesn't matter, 8 weeks for as far as the fight camp goes. And then now I just pray that God's will be done for better or for worse in my fighting career. And because I know wins or losses in the grand scheme of thing are only going to put me where I'm supposed to be, with God and his plan. So I'm not really worried about anything.
right on, dude. And I honestly think that's part of the reason why you see such a high percentage of fighters, that are religious in some aspect. Just being able to let go and just fight, man. Like you don't know what's gonna happen.
Yeah, I saw this thing with I don't know if it was, I mean, who even knows now with the internet and like AI being so good at like changing people's voices and stuff like that. But it was an interview with John Jones, and he was saying that he the week before every fight he would go party, and it like makes a lot of sense, because if he's going to party the week before every fight, if he loses the fight, he can always tell himself like, oh, it's because I went out and partied the week before. So it literally takes like all pressure off of him to perform, because he's always going to have that in the back of his head where it's like, oh, it doesn't even matter. I didn't train that hard for this. I didn't take it seriously. And I think that, albeit that's a very interesting way to go about that, uh, just being able to realize that it's just like a fight, that it doesn't really mean that much. It just, and having no kind of pressure on you whatsoever will allow you to perform to your best ability. I know I saw an interview with Mighty Mouse saying that I think it was like after a loss, he realized that everyone in his family still loved him or something. And he was like, oh, like this winning or losing, like, doesn't really matter. Everyone still loves me regardless of I win or lose. So why am I stressing about this? And just, that it completely frees you and allows you to go out there and just perform.
Yep, that makes total sense, man. That's awesome. Um, this is gonna be a weird segue, but having that, disconnect from the result essentially is what you're talking about. Like just not being caught up, in the result of the fight, knowing that you and your person, your family, everything is still gonna be there. You're totally fine. Um, and then only getting half of your check when you lose. How do you balance that? Because I mean, winning is half of your paycheck, man.
Like you definitely need to win, right? Because I mean, it'd be one thing if, especially in the sport, that if you were just rewarded for going out there and just getting a participate, like, yeah, good job, buddy, you showed up. But like that's not how it goes. If you lose too many, they cut you and they say go fight somewhere else. So definitely got to win more than not, right? But that's why, like, as spiritually for me, I just leave it in God's hand, and I know that whether I'm supposed to be in the UFC or I'm supposed to be somewhere else, I know that every single day I'm training my butt off and I'm doing everything I can inside and then or outside and then inside the cage to win and come out on top. And if I'm not able to get that win, and that happens multiple times or something, and then I get cut from wherever I'm fighting at, I just know that it just wasn't where I was supposed to be in the first place. And I got complete just kind of confidence in God and submission to his plan. So I just, as much as I'd like to be the champion of this promotion or that promotion or whatever, I just know that I'm always going to be where I'm supposed to be. And
Yep.
I got complete content in that.
Yep. Control what you can control. I dig it. Right on. The next question is coming from Oscar. Have you ever felt bad for knocking somebody out?
You know what? I talk about this all the time too, because people are like, oh, you love Jesus, you're supposed to love your neighbor. Well, how are you hitting people and this and that? Like, I love all my friends all the time in practice, and I beat up those guys too, like I don't need any kind of malice in my heart whatsoever to hit people. I just think it's fun. And I really hope that when I do, like if I knock someone, um, every time even when I win a fight, choke them out, knock them out, whatever, I go over there and I try not to like have some kind of giant celebration in front of their face. I find that's like really disrespectful. Because I mean, I can only imagine, like, if I get knocked out or something, and then someone's like super disrespectful, and my family's watching, like their kids are watching after I knock them out or something like that. It's so bad. So I try to be really respectful, go up to the guy and see how he's doing and everything like that. Tell him thanks for fighting me. I appreciate him 100% for stepping in the cage with me. So like it's like this weird thing where in the moment, like you're trying to knock him out, but then once you do knock him out, you're like, oh, like I hope you can just get up right away, and like that's all it was. So yeah, like it's just this weird thing.
Right. Yeah, I can't even imagine that because that's your goal. Like you literally are going into the fight like I want to do as much damage to this person as I physically can. And then that switch immediately after of just being a human, like, oh shit, like I really hurt somebody.
It is pretty, like, especially when you know the guy's trying to, you're not going out there and fighting like a punching bag, right? A guy's like, he's actively trying to fight you back. So like it's competition, especially at the highest. Like, okay, like it's, at least for me, I have fun because I'm trying to overcome an obstacle. I'm not really thinking about breaking a human. I'm thinking about like overcoming this obstacle that's in front of me. And I have a lot of fun trying to do that as far as the competition aspect of it all. And so, yes, I'm trying to knock him out and I'm having a lot of fun setting up this or that or trying to get him in this position so that I can knock him out. But then, yeah, like once I do knock him out, I'm like, oh, like trying to help him up, like, oh man, sorry, like hopefully this isn't any kind of long-term problem, man. Sorry.
Yep, yep. And I think the UFC's done a really good job at, transitioning away from the early UFCs were all about being a blood sport, being the most violent thing you can see on TV. And now it's definitely a sport. Like it is along with NFL, NBA, NHL, like it is a mainstream sport. And, you're going to see it on your timeline. You're going to see it on all social media feeds. It's no longer this weird taboo that you have to go behind the beads in a video store to rent some old UFCs.
Yeah, man. Family friendly affairs for sure.
Family friendly violence.
Exactly.
Right on. The next question is coming from Tom Foolery, and he asks, "Does it feel like an out of body experience when you fight?"
Um, it's it's real weird sometimes. Yeah, like you're going in there, and especially sometimes, like when I'm watching film, I'm like, dang, I did all that, and like, cause you're so in the moment that it feels like it almost feels out of body because there's like no one moment that you're stuck on thinking about, right? It's like as it's happening, you're just taking it all in and then reacting and taking it in and reacting. So you're just like so in the moment at that one time that everything else is fleeting. Cause as soon as it passes through, it's like like it's gone. So yeah, it's I don't know, it's real special. That and then like when you actually get your hand raised, it's like the greatest feeling in the whole world because of all the hard work that goes into it, all the sacrifices you have to make, right? All the training, this and that, all the times you have to say no to going out with your friends and all that. And then you get your hand raised and you're like, oh, sweet. Like it was all for this. It was great. This is going to do good for me. And then on the flip side, when you lose, it's like, oh, damn. It almost feels like you're like, oh, I just wasted my last 8 weeks of camp, like so it's a pretty crazy experience. I think everyone should go out there and fight at least one fight, like on an amateur level, just
Yeah,
to experience. It teaches you a lot about yourself.
right on. Um, I guess does it have anything to do with the speed of what's happening in the fight? Do you remember grappling exchanges or up against the fence maybe more than just in the throwing?
No, yeah, it's not that you don't remember anything that happens. It's just like because I'll remember certain exchanges and I'll remember like, oh, he bit on this. I need to set that up. It's just that, and then the grappling exchanges, like he did that, and then I shot my underhook and I tried to get up, or I felt him trying to go for an arm bar or something, so I tucked my elbow back. But then a lot of it too is we train so much to just react without thinking that it's like there's like RAM processing, but it didn't even get to there. Our body just goes before we even thought about doing what we're actually supposed to do. So it's just a mixture of like body mechanics and muscle memory. So like our body just reacting to us not even thinking about anything. And then also like I said, is just you're so just focused on what's happening at the time that it's happening that you're not really taking everything in. Yeah, it sometimes feels like you're just watching a movie, but from like a POV.
Yeah,
See your hands in gloves and the guy in front of you just like throwing, and you're like, like in boxing movies, you're watching Creed or
sure.
something. He's in
Yeah, yeah.
that's like exactly how it feels sometimes, and you're just like, yeah, it's pretty crazy.
That's wild. The only thing that I can kind of equate that to is I've done some, high level like downhill mountain biking. And when you're going off jumps and there's so many rocks and roots, but you're going, 30 miles an hour, it's so fast that your brain's doing things before you can really consciously process them. So you're flowing. I mean, they call it the flow state, right? Like when you get to that point where you're just kind of relying entirely on your training, relying on your instincts, like you've done all of this work to have this peak, to have this moment, and then you just switch on and just let your body and everything kind of take over. Um, but yeah, I mean, you talked about it perfectly. You remember things, but it's almost like it's happening too fast that when you watch the video back, you're like, wow, did I do all of that? Like, how did I do this?
No, yeah, for sure. And it's like not even just like when you're in there. Like if I watch sparring footage of me sometimes in the gym, when I'm locked in and I'm like flowing, like you're saying, the being in the flow state, I'm just doing things, and I'm like, oh yeah, like I was like I was in there. I was super in the moment, and I just had whoever was in front of me locked in. Yeah,
Right on.
it's flow state, like just like you said.
That's awesome. The next question's coming from the goat Santi. What's the first thing you bought when your UFC check cashed?
First thing I bought, man, I think we just went and ate some food. I went and bought a steak. Yeah, that was it. I just mean actually when I fought D-Rock for that first fight on 4 days notice in the middle of COVID, right? So we two of my best friends came out to Vegas too, and they like watched the fight in just in their little hotel room where I think they got an Airbnb and they were watching it, and then they came and picked me up after, and they were like, "So what are we gonna do now?" I was like, "Man, let's go eat." And we just found like the most fanciest steak spot and just ordered some fat, like super fat steak and some mashed potatoes and stuff. It was delicious, well earned.
That's awesome. So, how does the check work? Is it just direct deposit? When did you get paid for your first fight?
Yeah, you get paid a couple days after. So I just threw it on the credit card. I was gonna pay
Yeah,
it back. Yeah, you just direct deposit. They have it set up so that it just drops into your bank account a few days later, and then it's pretty cool, man. You see, like the whole just getting paid with like lump sums of money. It sucks on an everyday because we're training like we're or at least like I do. Like I said, some guys only train when they're in camp, but I'm training all the time and I'm putting all these hours in regardless, every week, no matter what. And I'm like not getting paid for it at all because it's really just so I have a chance of winning when I actually do have a fight. And then so like not seeing my bank account go up while I have training all the time isn't as cool. But on the flip side, when I go fight for 15 minutes and then I get paid this chunk of money, I'm like, oh man, that was awesome.
it's definitely not a consistent dopamine release. It's a lot of shitty and then a big awesome release.
For sure.
That's wild. And then so just a few days after for your win bonus too, like that'll just show up a few days after you fight.
Yeah. And then yeah, you divvy it up, you give some to your coach, you give some to your manager, and
Keep
then
your 30% for taxes.
yeah, yeah, you gotta do the tax money. Start writing down your write-offs so you don't get by Uncle Sam.
Yep, yep. Next question's coming from MCon55. He's asking about what's the best base for MMA.
I think more than anything, it's like a mindset. You just gotta be like willing to scrap because like martial art, as far as martial arts go, or just like yeah, I guess martial arts would be the word. It would probably be wrestling more than anything, just because it can help you. I think like if you're wrestling and you go into jiu-jitsu gym, you're basically already like a high level blue belt just because the amount of control and takedowns and stuff like that. And then with wrestling, you get this whole mindset of just kind of grind and willingness to work, and just your work ethic is crazy. You're just super comfortable with being uncomfortable, and that's going to do so great like across the board for anything that you do like in life, right? It'll just prepare you. um but yeah, like that's the best base is just having a mindset like that. Like wrestling is cool because it kind of gives you that mindset, but if you're just someone who has a mindset who's willing to just kind of be a dog and work really hard, I think that's going to be your best base.
Dude, that's a great answer. But you didn't wrestle, did you, in high school or anything like that?
Now, my friend that got me to start training MMA, he was a wrestler, and he tried to get me to wrestle in high school. And I would see them run, and I'd be like, "Man, you guys are crazy." The wrestling coach's name was Coach Brogdon, and he just had them run and run and run. And I saw him wearing little singlets and stuff, and I was like, "Nah, man, it's not for me. I'll be over here running my little 15, 20 yard sprints, and then I'll be done." And I think like if I could go back and change something, I totally would wrestle in high school. It's funny because like after I finished school and I was in college, my friend that brought me to the gym, he became like the new wrestling coach at our school. And so I started training MMA and stuff like that. And he was like, "Why don't you just go wrestle with the high school kids, man?" So I would go down there and wrestle with them and stuff. And I was like, "Man, Like the football camaraderie is cool, but wrestling camaraderie is like pretty cool. So you see like because they're like dying together. Like don't be wrong, we're dying on the football field, but it's like a like you're actually like you know going at it when you're wrestling. There's no like running at each other and hitting each other. It's like technique and maneuvers and stuff like that, and it's just a different kind of gruelingness on the body. It's pretty sick, man. I
Yeah.
totally.
Do you think that we'll ever see a time where MMA is like a Division 1 sport?
I don't I don't know. Well, you like what's his name?
Faber?
Yeah, he's got the thing going in at the college. It's got like a basically amateur MMA program going
Yeah.
on. I think that at most it's going to be like just kind of a club sport thing. Like a lot of schools have club jujitsu teams, club boxing teams. Like the at Forge Fitness where I train at right now, USC's boxing team comes in, and so I mess around with those guys and I show them like little tips and stuff like that, and help out those guys a lot. Or one day I just sparred against the whole team. I just like went round after round. It was like who's next. Um, a really fun group of kids. And I'm a UCLA fan, so it kind of hurt my soul a little bit helping them. But yeah, I think at most it's just going to be that. I don't think they're like because even when I was in college and I started training MMA, I walked up to the board of people and I was asking if we could get like an MMA program going on at the school, and they shut it down like big time. But that was also like 10 years ago. So things are changing. Like they allow like a club jujitsu team and boxing team to happen. But yeah, I think it's just gonna stay at the kind of club level. I don't know if it's gonna go all the way to like having being completely funded by the school and all that. I really wish it would. That'd be super awesome. I mean, because like back in the day, there was high schools would have boxing teams as well, but because of them not wanting people like to fight and stuff like that, that kind of got away. It was a little too risky and stuff, and insurance and all that stuff, so that kind of disappeared. But I totally think that high school should have boxing teams and all that stuff still. Hopefully, let's get high school boxing back in first, and then maybe there'll be a trickle down effect, and then it'll slowly go up from there.
Right on. I mean, I'm just saying that because I think we need to get some of these athletes. I mean, these Division 1 football players, the basketball players, if we can get them into MMA, man, that's the next evolution of the sport.
Like, yeah and no, because like as far as athleticism, yeah, but it's just a whole nother level of like you can be a fighter and not be an amazing athlete because
Right.
it's a mental. I like the idea of being locked into a cage where someone's trying to hit you and then be willing to hit them back. It's just different. Like not every athlete can fight, and then a lot of the times um I think even in the UFC there's some guys that are like really really good athletes, and the thing with athletes is they're great when they're winning, but once the fight kind of turns into like a bit of a war, like that dog isn't necessarily in them, and you really need that dog more than anything.
All right. That's a great, yeah, that's a great opinion. And even with the wrestlers, like you said, wrestling can develop that mindset. But you see these wrestlers start getting hit in the face, and even they start crumbling too. So it's a different mindset to have that, you know what, punch me, I'm going to stand here and I'm going to punch you harder. Like that's different than most athletes ever have
No,
experienced.
no, yeah, for sure, because it's like actually you're there's some like don't get me wrong, I'm pretty sure there's like it'd probably be like specific type of positions on the football team, like probably like a middle linebacker, a guy who's just trying to run forward with his head down and like clog a hole and willing to just destroy his body for the play. Um, Probably have a little bit more dog in him than like some kind of wide receiver or something who's out just trying to make his touches and be all like a little shake and bake. Not saying that he can't be an amazing fighter. It's just that if he ever gets pushed to that level, where he actually has to fight and a war is happening, guys that like they're just gonna they tend to just break a little bit. And that's just it's being a fighter is so interesting because like you gotta be athletic, you gotta have just that little bit of crazy in you. That's just like all it is, and just be willing to just let them go and just say, all right, let's go.
Hell yeah. The last question is coming from Fleku02, and they're asking what's the biggest sacrifice that you've made while chasing fighting?
It's just all those days of not um hanging out with my friends and stuff. I would remember it's like when I started being an amateur fighter and then I started winning, I didn't know what I was gonna do with it at first, but when I realized like I loved it so much and that there's a slight possibility that I could take this somewhere, I was like, well, I'm not gonna. And then like the fight window is only this big, right? So I only have this many years to fight. So I just told myself I'm gonna put everything I can into fighting, from now until then, and then so that I don't have to think about like what could have been by the time I'm that age. And so because of that, I so many times like my friends would try to go out and this and that, and I'd be like, oh no, I'm training tomorrow, I got training in the morning, I can't go out no. And they'd be like, man, you're, especially like when I started winning, they're like, oh, you're good, dude, you beat everybody, like you can come out one day. I'm like, nah man, I can't, I gotta go train, I gotta go train. And then I tell girls no all the time, girls try to hang out with me, I'm like, nah, I'm not hanging out with you, forget you. um but luckily, my coach, right, he always told me if you find a really, really, he would always say, he's like, dude, girls are bad. Keep girls far away from you. But he's like, but if you find a good one, like don't push a good one away just because you're super focused on something that's in the future. You're not even there yet. And if she's really that one, she'll stick around with you and she won't make your life worse. And then luckily I met my wife, and then I didn't shoo her away, so everything worked out good.
Right on, man. That's awesome. No, I mean, thanks so much for hopping on here. I just want to, give you the platform. What's next for Gabe Green? What do you want to plug? We'll have all your socials and everything linked in description, but plug your stuff, man.
Just gifted Gabe Green across the board. That's the places to find me. TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. I'm trying to, because of the whole not fighting all the time and then injuries happening, stuff like that. It really made me think like, you know what, maybe I should take the whole Instagram and platform seriously. So I've been trying to get some more content out there and really try to grow my social medias. So if you could follow me, that'd be great. I'd appreciate it. It is right now a lot of religious and Jesus talk because I do love Jesus so much. But I'm throwing out some restaurant stuff like that and food reviews and dabbling and just stuff that I love. So yeah, follow me if you guys want to see some fun stuff.
Right on, man. Just keep focusing on what you love. I love that.